Hello everyone, welcome back to Chapter 5. Today we will focus on Unit 2, second part of the features of the Internet. Let's have a quick review on last video. Last time, we started from the reason why we need to learn the Internet. Then, we compared between the Internet and the World Wide Web. Next, we explained the concepts of URLs and differences between HTTP and HTTPS. Last, we introduced the common features of web browsers. Finishing reviewing the last unit, let's start today's unit. As we have mentioned in the previous video, the browser will interpret HTML sent from websites. So, what's HTML? HTML, an abbreviation of Hypertext Markup Language, is a language used to display content on browsers. All websites are written in HTML and hosted on a web server with its own IP address. So, how do browsers retrieve pages from a website? The browser needs to know the website's IP address. How can we or the browser know the IP address of websites and web servers? We can make a good use of DNS, an abbreviation of Domain Name Server. DNS will convert an URL into IP address the computer can understand. For example, convert the URL www.harderdeducation.co.uk into IP address 107.162.140.19. DNS servers contain a database of URLs with the matching IP addresses. Therefore, with DNS, users and computers don't need to memorize IP addresses. Take a scenario for example. In this scenario, the IP address is on the second DNS server, and user opens the browser and types in URL. The whole process of how DNS is used to locate and retrieve a web page can be done in 5 steps. First, the browser asks the DNS server 1 for the IP address of the website. Second, since in this scenario, we assume that the IP address is on the DNS server 2, the DNS server 1 can't find the URL in its database, so it sends out a request to DNS server 2. Third, DNS server 2 finds the URL and can map it to its own IP address. DNS server 2 sends this IP address back to the DNS server 1. DNS server 1 puts this IP address and associated URL into its database. Fourth, this IP address is then sent back to the user's computer. Fifth, the computer now sets up a communication with the website server and the required pages are downloaded. HTML files are sent from the website server to the computer. Finally, the browser interprets the HTML, which is used to structure content, and then displays the information on the user's computer. The final part of today's lesson, cookies. It's not the cookies we have eaten in our real life. They are small files or code stored on our computers. They are sent by a web server to a browser. Each cookie is a small lookup table containing pairs of key and data values. For example, surname, Jones, means the user's surname is Jones. Another example, music, rock, means the music type is rock. Cookies allow user tracking and maintain user preferences. Therefore, every time a user visits a website, it checks if it has set cookies on their browser before. If so, the browser will read a cookie which holds key information on the user's preferences, such as language, currency, and previous browsing activity. The information is used to customize the web page for each individual user. Let's take an easy example. If you buy a book called How to Master CS online, the cookies will record and remember your preference in a pair value, book CS. The second time you get to the same website, the website will read the cookie and know, oh, this user likes books in CS area. So it will customize the web page and may suggest you books like CS a piece of cake, CS World, or learn CS easily. Following, we are going deep into cookies. There are two types of cookie. One is session cookie, and the other is persistent cookie. Let's take the scenario of making online purchases for example. If session cookies are used, they will keep users' items in a virtual shopping basket. This type of cookie is stored in temporary memory on user's computer, doesn't actually collect any information from the user's computer, and doesn't personally identify a user. Therefore, if the browser is closed, the website session is terminated. Session cookies disappear on user's computer. Persistent cookies remember users' login details, such as users' passwords, email addresses, and invoice details. So they won't have to insert all of this information every time they visit or every time they purchase something from the website. Persistent cookies are stored on the hard drive of user's computer until the expiry date is reached or the user deletes it. These cookies remain in operation on the user's computer even after the browser is closed or the website session is terminated. Some advantages of persistent cookies list below. They are a very efficient way of carrying data from website session to another, or even between sessions on related websites. They remove the need to store massive amounts of data on the web server itself. Storing the data on the web server without using cookies would also make it very difficult to retrieve a user's data without requiring the user to log in every time they visit the website. Mentioned lots of advantages of persistent cookie before. How to protect the information from the possible secure leak existing in this convenient technology. Some websites use cookies to store more personal information or user preferences only if the user has provided the website with certain personal information and agrees to its being stored. Also, legitimate websites will always encrypt any personal information stored in the cookie to prevent unauthorized use by a third party, which may have access to your cookie folder. Last but not least, many countries have introduced laws to protect users, and these cookies are supposed to become deactivated after 6 months, even if the expiry date has not yet been reached. Finishing with the details of cookies, let's take a look at how it works in real life. The scenario of this figure is when the user first time logs into a website. The user's web browser will request web page from the website. The web server will reply to the request and send cookie back to user's web browser. If it's persistent cookie, cookie will be stored on user's hard drive. If it's session cookie, cookie will be stored in temporary memory. When the web browser closed or website session closed, persistent cookies remain stored, and session cookie will be deleted from memory at end of website session. When user logs into that website again, web server will check and identify persistent cookies stored on user's computer, which may include user's preferences or other recognized details. Also, users' history data might be matched to data shared with other online sellers, which is same with the example of buying book in CS explained before. Finally, it's about the end of this video. Let's have a quick recap of this unit. First, we introduced how to retrieve pages from websites. We will use IP address, and we have a scenario of how it works among users' computer, DNS servers, and web servers when user tries to access a website. Next, we introduced cookies, which contains users' personal information and preferences. It can be classified into two categories, session cookie and persistent cookie, based on their characteristics. In the last part of cookie, we explain how cookie work in scenario of when user logs in first time and subsequent times. That's all for this video. Thank you.